In this video, we explore the powerful and transformative combination of kindness and wisdom in relationships. You'll discover how setting boundaries not only protects your well-being, but deepens your connections, allowing you to give from a place of authenticity, not obligation. We'll show you how wisdom guides your kindness, ensuring it's impactful and sustainable, while helping you navigate challenges with grace and empathy. If you've ever felt the tension of overextending yourself or struggled with balancing kindness and boundaries, this video will provide you with the clarity you need. Stay tuned to unlock the secrets to building healthier, more meaningful relationships that foster mutual respect and growth. Watch until the end for insights that could change the way you connect with others forever. Before we start, I'd appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on future lessons from God. But the fault does not lie solely with others. You too bear the sacred duty of demonstrating through both word and deed what you will and will not tolerate. Kindness in its truest form must walk hand in hand with wisdom. For without discernment, even the most generous heart can be exploited, drained, and left aching in the wake of its self-sacrifice. Imagine, if you will, a flourishing garden, a place of warmth and beauty, cultivated with patience, devotion, and care. It is a gift to the world, an offering of color and fragrance for all who pass by. But what if you left its gates perpetually open? What if you allowed anyone to tread upon its sacred soil, unchecked and unchallenged? Soon weeds would choke the life from your blooms, careless feet would crush the delicate petals, and the very essence of your labor would wither under the weight of neglect. This is why boundaries are not barriers to kindness. They are its fiercest guardians. When you say no, not with cruelty, but with unwavering grace, you are not shutting someone out. You are preserving the integrity of your kindness. A kindness without boundaries is not kindness at all. It is self-erasure, a slow and quiet unraveling of the soul. It is a sacrifice made in desperation rather than love, an offering given not from abundance, but from depletion. And in time, such misplaced kindness breeds something insidious: resentment, exhaustion, even self-love. True kindness is not submission. It is not the endless swallowing of pain to make others comfortable. It is not a performance stage to earn love, approval, or acceptance. It is an act of courage, born not from weakness, but from an inner strength so profound that it remains unshaken by the expectations of others. To be truly kind is to understand your worth, to extend compassion without allowing yourself to be diminished in the process. A truly kind soul does not give because they are afraid to say no. They do not offer forgiveness because they feel obligated. They do not bend and break under the weight of someone else's demands simply because they fear rejection. Instead, they give because it aligns with their values, because their heart overflows. After all, kindness is a gift they offer freely, not a currency with which they buy affection. This distinction is vital. When kindness is transactional, when it is given with strings attached, with the silent expectation of reciprocation, it ceases to be about others and becomes a quiet plea for validation. And when that validation does not come, as it so often does not, disappointment festers like an open wound. The kind person, left feeling unseen and unappreciated, may begin to question their worth. But kindness that is rooted in strength does not need applause. It stands on its own, unwavering, unshaken by whether or not it is acknowledged. To be truly kind is to possess discernment, the wisdom to recognize when an act of generosity will uplift and when it will enable. There is a vast difference between extending a hand to someone in need and endlessly rescuing those who refuse to stand on their own. True kindness asks a difficult but necessary question: will my actions genuinely help this person, Or am I simply shielding them from the consequences they must face? The answer to this question is not always easy, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and allow someone to struggle, to learn, to grow. Consider a friend lost in self-destruction. It is easy to reassure them, to offer endless comfort, to tell them what they wish to hear. But true kindness demands something greater. It may require you to speak hard truths, to hold them accountable, and to set boundaries even when it pains you to do so. It may even require you to walk away, to accept that some battles are not yours to fight, that some lessons must be learned alone. And what of self-respect? Without it, kindness deteriorates into self-abandonment, a quiet martyrdom where one's needs are forever placed beneath the wants of others. A kindness devoid of self-respect is unsustainable. It drains, depletes, and in the end leaves behind only a hollow shell of the person who once gave so freely. But the kindness that springs from self-worth is different. It is balanced, steady, and enduring. It recognizes that while generosity is noble, one cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup. True kindness requires inner abundance. It is not the frantic giving of someone desperate to be liked, but the calm, measured generosity of a soul that knows its worth. And sometimes the greatest kindness is restraint, the decision not to shield someone from the weight of their own choices. Consider a parent disciplining a child. To spare them from every hardship may seem kind at the moment, but in truth it cripples them, robbing them of the resilience they need to navigate the world. The same principle applies to life's relationships. Sometimes, stepping back is the kindest thing you can do. Empowering kindness does not create dependence. It does not seek to control, to coddle, to diminish. Instead, it uplifts, it strengthens, it builds others into their best selves, not by shielding them from life's difficulties, but by believing in their ability to overcome them. It is not rooted in pity or superiority, but in profound respect for another's potential. And so the question is not merely whether you are kind, it is whether your kindness is anchored in wisdom, in strength, in an unshakable understanding of your worth. True kindness, real, enduring, powerful kindness, is not about pleasing others. It is about loving, respecting, and honoring yourself enough to give freely, without fear, without condition, and without ever losing yourself in the process. The root of disrespect does not always lie in kindness itself, but in how kindness is perceived and interpreted by others. Human interactions are intricate, shaped by a web of societal expectations, personal histories, and deep-seated psychological instincts. Kindness, when extended without clear boundaries, can inadvertently send a signal, an unintended message, that the giver is willing to tolerate behaviors they should never accept. This miscommunication lies at the heart of many disrespectful encounters. At its core, disrespect often emerges from a fundamental misunderstanding of the giver's intentions. Kindness, though often rooted in pure altruism, is frequently viewed through the lens of power dynamics. In a world where relationships are so often defined by an implicit balance of strength and vulnerability, excessive accommodation or a continual eagerness to please can be misread. To others, this may not seem like an act of generosity, but a sign of weakness. The absence of boundaries can create the perception that the kind individual is submissive, open to manipulation and exploitation. What was meant to be a gesture of goodwill may unintentionally mark the giver as someone easy to take advantage of. Another crucial factor in the erosion of respect is the lack of reciprocity in relationships. When kindness is extended without the expectation of mutual respect or return, it establishes an unbalanced dynamic, one that can feel unjust and draining over time. A person who constantly accommodates the needs of a friend, colleague, or loved one without asserting their own can unwittingly create an environment where their efforts are taken for granted. What began as a selfless act, an attempt to bring joy, relief, or comfort, slowly becomes an obligation in the eyes of the recipient. The kindness, once freely given, transforms into something routine, an expectation rather than a gift. The giver, with the best of intentions, fosters a cycle where their efforts are devalued. This is further compounded by a natural tendency within human nature to test limits. A person who consistently says yes to every request, who sacrifices their own needs to accommodate others, inadvertently invites others to push boundaries. What begins as a simple willingness to help, a desire to be supportive, can quickly evolve into an entitlement. For example, a co-worker who always agrees to take on additional tasks may initially be praised for their willingness to help, but soon this becomes the expectation. The gratitude once expressed turns into an unspoken demand for more, and before long, the person who once offered kindness freely becomes the default source of labor, undervalued and taken for granted. This progression is rarely malicious in intent. It is often a natural reaction to repetitive behavior patterns. But the outcome is undeniable. The once generous individual, in their pursuit of kindness, becomes the target of disrespect. Their sacrifices are no longer viewed as meaningful gestures, but as simple, expected duties. Over time, the kindness no longer shines with the warmth of generosity, but fades into a dull, unappreciated routine. Moreover, there is a deeper imbalance between outward acts of kindness and the inner confidence of the giver. People are remarkably perceptive, not only to the actions we take, but to the energy, intent, and emotions that drive those actions. Kindness rooted in insecurity, driven by a desperate need for approval, feels different from kindness given with unwavering confidence and self-respect. The former can often come across as needy or dependent, prompting others to devalue the giver, as though their worth is tied to external validation. The latter, however, emanates strength. It commands respect by its very nature, demonstrating that the giver knows their worth and acts from a place of inner security. Societal conditioning plays a significant role in how kindness is perceived, too. In many cultures, kindness is often equated with passivity, with softness, especially in competitive environments like the workplace or within social hierarchies. In these settings, individuals who prioritize kindness over assertiveness are sometimes dismissed as weak or worse, incapable of standing up for themselves. Kindness in such contexts can easily be misunderstood as an inability to navigate power dynamics, which can lead to an erosion of respect from those around them. In short, true kindness must be coupled with self-respect and boundaries, or else it risks becoming a tool for exploitation rather than a source of mutual connection. Kindness offered from a place of strength and confidence will always carry far more weight, commanding respect and fostering genuine, healthy relationships. When kindness is perceived as endless, it can paradoxically lose its meaning in the eyes of others. People may begin to dismiss the thoughts and contributions of kind individuals, treating them with condescension or overlooking their efforts entirely. The painful reality is that in many environments, respect is not automatically granted to those who are generous and selfless. It is often reserved for those who assert their strength and enforce their boundaries. Kindness, when given too freely, can become like background noise, present but unnoticed. The principle of scarcity, which governs the value of material possessions, also applies to human behavior. Acts of generosity, when constant and predictable, may begin to feel routine rather than intentional. A person who always forgives every slight, who agrees to every request, who sacrifices without hesitation, may find their actions taken for granted rather than appreciated. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. In contrast, kindness that is given deliberately and in moderation carries a greater weight. It feels like a conscious gift rather than an expected obligation. This is where the absence of boundaries becomes a silent thief, robbing kindness of its intended impact. The reluctance to say no or to express personal limits often stems from a deep-seated fear, the fear of conflict, the fear of being seen as selfish, or the fear of losing love and acceptance. But when people fail to communicate their limits, they inadvertently allow others to define them instead. Miscommunication, or worse, an absence of communication, can create an unbalanced dynamic where kindness is mistaken for weakness. Over time, the recipient of unwavering generosity may stop recognizing it as a choice and instead view it as an expectation. This is not necessarily out of malice. It is human nature to grow accustomed to what is always available. A mother who prepares every meal without a word of complaint, a friend who is always there to listen but never shares their burdens, or a colleague who takes on extra work without acknowledgement. Each of these individuals may find their kindness fading into invisibility, absorbed into the background of everyday life. Worse still, when one person gives consistently while another only receives, an unhealthy power imbalance emerges. The giver, once content with their role, may begin to feel undervalued and unappreciated. Meanwhile, the receiver, no longer seeing these gestures as extraordinary, may unknowingly develop a sense of entitlement. Over time, this silent erosion of respect can transform even the most loving relationships into sources of quiet resentment. However, setting boundaries is not a rejection of kindness. It is a preservation of its value. Clear boundaries communicate self-respect and reinforce the idea that generosity should never come at the expense of one's well-being. When people articulate their limits, they reduce misunderstandings and strengthen relationships. If a colleague understands that you do not take work calls after 7 p.m., they are more likely to plan accordingly, avoiding frustration on both sides. Boundaries also serve as a powerful model for others, demonstrating that it is possible to be compassionate without being self-sacrificing. Many struggle with overextending themselves due to guilt or a misplaced sense of duty. But when they see someone assert their needs with confidence, they are encouraged to do the same. A friend who watches you prioritize your well-being, despite a busy schedule, may feel empowered to follow suit, fostering healthier dynamics in both personal and professional relationships. More importantly, boundaries ensure that kindness remains genuine rather than performative. When you say yes out of desire rather than obligation, your actions carry warmth and sincerity. But when you agree to things solely to avoid disappointing others, your kindness may be tainted by quiet frustration or exhaustion. Over time, this unspoken resentment can chip away at the quality of your relationships, leaving you feeling depleted and unfulfilled. By establishing boundaries, you preserve the purity of your generosity, ensuring that every act of kindness is both sustainable and sincere. Many fear that setting boundaries will push people away, and that loved ones will feel hurt or abandoned. And while it is true that some may initially resist change, in the long run, healthy boundaries fortify relationships rather than weaken them. They create a framework of mutual respect, allowing both parties to feel safe, valued, and understood. A friend who honors your need for space will cherish your presence even more, knowing that when you choose to spend time together, it is because you genuinely want to, not because you feel obligated. Moreover, boundaries are an act of kindness to yourself. They safeguard your emotional, mental, and physical energy, ensuring that you can show up fully in the relationships that matter most. When you constantly give without replenishing yourself, you risk burnout. Your kindness becomes a dwindling resource rather than a renewable one. By taking care of yourself first, you are ultimately able to offer more to others, not less. Setting boundaries also empowers others by fostering self-sufficiency and accountability. Constantly stepping in to solve someone's problems may feel like an act of love, but it can also hinder their personal growth. When a manager refrains from micromanaging, employees develop independence and confidence. When a parent allows a child to navigate their challenges, they learn resilience. When a friend encourages another to take responsibility for their own decisions, they foster self-empowerment. Ultimately, boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are gates that allow the right things in while keeping harmful dynamics at bay. They do not diminish kindness, they elevate it, ensuring that every act of generosity remains a meaningful and cherished gift rather than an expectation lost in the noise of everyday life. When wisdom and kindness intertwine, they have the profound ability to transform relationships in deeply meaningful ways. While kindness alone is a precious virtue, it is wisdom that breathes life into it, guiding its expression with clarity and purpose. Without wisdom, kindness, though well-intended, can be misunderstood, misused, or misapplied, leading to frustration, imbalance, and a breakdown in connections. Yet, when wielded with insight, kindness becomes a powerful tool for building lasting bonds, resolving conflicts, and encouraging mutual growth. One of the most profound ways wisdom amplifies kindness is by teaching us when and how to offer it. Not every situation calls for the same type of response, and without wisdom, we may mistakenly apply kindness in ways that do not align with the needs of the moment. For instance, comforting a friend who is grieving demands patience, empathy, and sensitivity, while addressing a coworker's ongoing irresponsibility requires a firm yet compassionate stance. Wisdom allows us to pause, assess the situation, and adapt our kindness to meet the specific needs at hand, ensuring it nurtures the relationship rather than exacerbating the issue. Wisdom also teaches us the importance of listening and observing before acting. Too often, well-meaning acts of kindness miss the mark because they stem from assumptions rather than a genuine understanding of another person's needs. Offering unsolicited advice to someone amid a tough decision, for example, may unintentionally come off as intrusive rather than helpful. In contrast, wisdom guides us to ask thoughtful questions, listen intently, and carefully consider the other person's perspective before offering guidance. This approach shows a profound respect for their autonomy and fosters a deep trust between both parties, strengthening the connection in a way that is truly meaningful. Another vital way wisdom enriches kindness is by helping us maintain balance, particularly when it comes to setting boundaries. Kindness often compels us to give freely, but wisdom reminds us that we must protect our energy and well-being in the process. Healthy relationships flourish when both people feel equally valued, and wisdom helps us identify when the scales of give and take begin to tip. If one person continually takes without giving, the relationship risks becoming strained, and the kind individual may begin to feel depleted or taken for granted. Wisdom empowers the giver to address these imbalances with honesty, expressing their feelings with both clarity and compassion, ensuring that kindness does not evolve into a source of resentment or exploitation. Furthermore, incorporating wisdom into our kindness allows us to navigate conflicts with grace and understanding. Disagreements, no matter how minor or significant, are inevitable in every relationship. However, it's how we approach these conflicts that determine the strength of our bond. Wisdom teaches us that kindness should not be used to avoid conflict, but rather as a tool for finding common ground and facilitating resolution. A wise, kind person does not react defensively when faced with criticism. Instead, they acknowledge the other person's feelings and seek to understand the root of their concerns. This approach diffuses tension, promotes empathy, and encourages open communication, allowing the relationship to grow even in the face of challenges. Wisdom also ensures that our kindness is empowering, not enabling. While our instinct is often to help those we care about, we must pause and consider whether our actions are genuinely beneficial in the long run. For instance, consistently solving someone else's problems may offer immediate relief, but it can inadvertently hinder their growth and independence. A wiser approach would involve providing guidance and support while encouraging the other person to take responsibility for their actions and decisions. This kind of kindness fosters self-reliance, builds confidence, and strengthens the foundation of the relationship, allowing both individuals to thrive together. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ultimately, wisdom enriches kindness by transforming it from a passive, sometimes automatic response into a deeply intentional and meaningful act. When guided by wisdom, kindness becomes a source of healing, understanding, and empowerment, creating lasting connections that are built on mutual respect, open communication, and a shared commitment to growth. Together, wisdom and kindness have the power to transcend mere gestures of goodwill, shaping relationships that are both deeply fulfilling and enduring. Constructive feedback to an employee, knowing that it may be uncomfortable at the moment, will ultimately lead to personal and professional growth. Wisdom helps us recognize that true kindness is not always about making others feel good in the short term, but rather about supporting their long-term well-being and development, even if it means making difficult, uncomfortable decisions. This kind of kindness is rooted in a deep understanding of what is best for the other person, rather than simply seeking immediate approval or comfort. In relationships, wisdom also enhances kindness by fostering empathy and patience. It serves as a reminder that every person is shaped by a complex web of experiences, emotions, and challenges that we may not fully comprehend. For example, if a friend repeatedly cancels plans, it is easy to feel hurt, rejected, or frustrated. However, a wise and kind response would involve taking a step back to consider whether they might be struggling with stress, anxiety, or personal difficulties that we may not be aware of. By approaching the situation with empathy, offering support without judgment, and seeking to understand their perspective, you create a safe space for open communication and mutual understanding. This allows the relationship to thrive as both parties feel heard, valued, and supported. Wisdom in kindness also teaches us the importance of timing. An act of kindness delivered at the wrong moment can be misinterpreted or even cause unintended harm. For instance, offering help to someone who fiercely values their independence might be perceived as condescending or patronizing rather than supportive. On the other hand, waiting too long to show kindness in a time of need can leave the other person feeling neglected, unimportant, or overlooked. Wisdom teaches us to recognize the perfect moment to extend kindness, whether it's offering a comforting word when someone is grieving, offering a listening ear when they are overwhelmed, or giving space when they need solitude. This sensitivity to timing ensures that our acts of kindness resonate deeply and have a positive impact on the relationship. Another powerful aspect of wisdom in kindness is its ability to promote self-awareness. Wisdom encourages us to examine our motivations carefully, ensuring that our actions are genuinely driven by a desire to help rather than by personal gain, recognition, or control. For example, a person who offers help only to elevate their status or to gain favor may unintentionally create feelings of obligation, guilt, or resentment in the recipient. On the other hand, when we approach kindness with genuine altruism, free from hidden agendas, we foster trust, authenticity, and sincerity in our relationships. This kind of self-awareness helps to cultivate kindness that is pure, sustainable, and emotionally enriching for both parties involved. Wisdom also transforms kindness by enabling us to take a long-term view of our relationships. It teaches us to prioritize lasting outcomes over temporary comfort, guiding us to make decisions that support the growth and well-being of those we care about, even when it's difficult. For instance, a parent might set firm boundaries or impose consequences on a teenager, understanding that these actions, though challenging at the moment, will teach valuable lessons about responsibility, discipline, and independence. Similarly, a manager might give tough but necessary feedback to an employee, knowing that it may cause discomfort at first, but will lead to improved performance and personal growth. Wisdom reminds us that kindness isn't always about offering immediate relief or avoiding conflict. Sometimes, true kindness involves challenging others to grow, even when it's uncomfortable. Ultimately, wisdom allows kindness to become a powerful force for transformation, both within individuals and within relationships. It empowers us to approach each situation with understanding, sensitivity, and clarity, ensuring that our acts of kindness are not only heartfelt, but also thoughtful and purposeful. When guided by wisdom, kindness can become a cornerstone of trust, mutual respect, and enduring connection. It can heal wounds, mend broken bonds, and inspire growth, creating relationships that are stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling. As we wrap up today's discussion, I'd love to hear from you. What have you learned so far about the powerful connection between kindness and wisdom? Is there something that stood out to you, or a lesson you plan to practice in your own life? Please share one key takeaway in the comments below. I'm excited to read your thoughts and reflections. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to connect with you again in the next video.